What's up, YouTube? Your boy back once again with another sport topic, and today we're going to talk some football. Houston Texans football. Today we're going to talk about a player that might have caught the eye of General Manager Bill O'Brien / Head Coach Bill O'Brien, and that is cornerback Chris Harris. And it's not the first time the Texans have been tied to Chris Harris. It was talks back early in the season, around the time we traded for Garyon Conley, that there were rumors about had interest in Chris Harris and was trying to trade for Chris Harris. I believe that the price tag got too high dealing with his age and what they were asking for. That's the reason why they went ahead with Garyon Conley, who was a younger guy, and that's why they got that deal done. And if I'm not mistaken, I think dating back all the way to 2018 when we traded for Demaryius Thomas, I think Chris Harris' name was mentioned in that trade as well. That could have just been just some little whispers, nothing really serious. But I think those talks were generated and had kind of piqued some type of interest, but not real deep interest. I firmly believe that during the season this past year, they really had true interest and would have got the deal done if Denver wasn't asking for a lot. And now the Denver Broncos made trade to get a former Houston Texan, A.J. Bouye from Jacksonville. So it's clear that Chris Harris is not going to resign. He's not going to resign with Denver, and Denver's not going to commit the franchise tag to him because they just traded for A.J. Bouye. So Chris Harris will hit the market. And I believe that the Texans have legitimate interest dating back, in my opinion, 2 years ago, but for sure last season as well. So he has complete interest. And me and Wink talked about this in the video last week when we talking about cornerback targets and things like that. We did a video talking about this, and we brought up Chris Harris' name. And this is the thing about Chris Harris. Yes, he's an older guy. He'll be 31 in July. He's a guy. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All Pro, and one of those was in 2016. He was first team All Pro, and 14 and 15 he was second team All Pro. So he's the 3-time All Pro, 1 first team, 2 second team, 4-time Pro Bowler. His last Pro Bowl was in 2018, and that's the most recent one. So he's a guy who is definitely a solid corner. He could play outside and inside, but he's better suited, especially right now, in the slot. And I think he brings in that veteran leadership. Won Super Bowl. He was on both Denver Super Bowl teams, the one that lost to Seattle, and then also the one that beat the Carolina Panthers. And to be honest, he was the best player in that secondary with him and Talib. And normally I have issues about bringing in older guys, but one, he's only 31, and it's not like you're giving him a 5-year contract. But this is the thing. Talib last year 2 years ago going to the Rams, and then last year Richard Sherman is the reason that has piqued my interest, because those are two guys who they got on the back half of their careers who were very vital and key pieces to their defenses. I mean, Talib played great in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. I mean, remember, that was one of the worst Super Bowls ever. But defensively, and part of the reason why, because they weren't scoring any points. And then Richard Sherman was all pro this year. Richard Sherman and he's coming off of a torn Achilles. So he has those two guys, what they've done on the back half of their career going to this team, and also Talib being in Denver. Like, that was also, Talib was a Pro Bowler and stuff like that back in Tampa and also in New England, the year he played in New England. So him going to Denver was kind of on the backside. So him going to the Rams was on the backside of his career. So those guys being older veterans going to those places, bringing in new life and bringing like strong opinions to their defense. I think that Chris Harris can do that here, especially talking about you guys you putting in the slot. I'm definitely on board with that. Not my number, as far as him being the corner, he's not my number one option, but he would be a solid option, especially coming in, like I said, regarding the slot. And what he brings to the table, he's an undrafted free agent back in 2011. So a guy who had to scrape, undrafted free agent, had to scrape and scrap to get where he had to be. And remember, during the tandem with him and Talib, he was the best corner. He was one of the driving forces. People talk about that pass rush with Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware. But they had the best secondary. At that time, they had the best secondary in the league between him and Aqib Talib. And he was the better corner. So he's a definitely shutdown corner. I know, no doubt about that. But the thing about him is, you're talking about a guy you're bringing in to cover the slot. And you need some speed. Me and Wink talked about this. Wink is on the mindset that you need to bring in 3 corners. If you're talking about paying Tunsil, which I think you have to get that deal done by this year because you don't want to put Tunsil in a situation where he start holding out because he has you where he wants you because you gave up 2 first-round picks. You're going to pay him, so you don't want to put him in a situation that he's holding out. And he even talks about extending Deshaun Watson this year. I don't think it'll be feasible to afford to get 3 corners, but you're going to have to get 2. If they walk away with only signing one corner or less in this free agency, it's an epic failure. You cannot depend on the draft. One, we don't pick the pick 57. That's our first pick. And that, you're talking about, as of right now, the only corners on the team is Garyon Conley and Lonnie Johnson. So if you wait to fix your cornerback tandem, or you fix your cornerback room by the draft, bringing a draft pick that you're picking at 57, that means he's going to have to start because you only have 3 corners. So you need to bring in more than 2 corners. You need to bring in at least 2 corners via free agency. And now we get into the type of corners because if you go get Chris Harris to cover down the slot, that's cool. You need another corner on the outside. Something else you need speed. Because the Texans, as Texan fans, we all know about how much speed is important offensively and defensively. The reason why, we know it on both sides. What we talk about every time that Will Fuller is not playing. The speed that Will Fuller brings, how he opens up the offense for Hopkins and for Kenny Stills, because you can't cover those receivers the same way with and without Will Fuller. The way that you cover Hop, double teaming Hop with Will Fuller gone, you can't cover him the same exact way when Will Fuller's there because he's going to blow the top off the defense. He's going to run right past whoever's covering him. So you have to dictate. He's going to dictate the coverage. We know that on the offensive standpoint. We also know that on the defensive standpoint as well, because how T.Y. Hilton has always owned the Texans. He averages 200 yards against the Texans every game, and he plays 2 games a year. And there's times that him having like a 1,100 yard season, we gave him almost half his production by giving him 400 yards against us. So if you take away those 400 yards, he's only putting in 700 yards against the rest of the league. So if you get an average game, he's only getting 800 yards or 850 yards if we held him to under 200 yards against us. That's the type of thing that speed happens. And you talk about teams with Kansas City with the speed they have with Tyreek Hill and Hartman. You talk about the speed that the Titans have and the weapons that the Titans are talking about getting. They're talking about the weapons that the Titans are talking about getting. All these 40 times that people is running in the past combat, all these receivers that run these low 40 times and things like that. The speed that Hollywood Brown has with, you talk about the Baltimore Ravens that Lamar Jackson got on his offensive that he got in his offensive repertoire. So you're talking about a lot of speed on the outside. You're gonna have to find a way to cover. You're gonna have to find a way to cover the speed, and you can't just bring in just any. You have to find somebody that can cover that. And I think if you're gonna bring in somebody who I think you can get in a cheaper rate, especially if you're bringing in Chris Harris, I think you could bring in somebody like Trey Waynes from Minnesota. Now, Trey Waynes is a former first-round pick. And yes, he has underachieved in Minnesota to some degree. But Minnesota did have a good defense. And you're not bringing him in to be your number 1 corner. You're not even bringing him to be your number 2 corner. Because I think that's Garyon Conley and Chris Harris. You're bringing him in to cover the fast guy. He's going to come in because I think he runs a 4.31 if I'm not mistaken. So he's a very fast corner. So that's actually elite speed. No, I'm not just he's running the 4.31. Like that's bringing in elite speed to the equation. So you're talking about a guy that you having him, and you're pairing him up with Chris Harris to cover the slot, and you got Garyon Conley on the other side. So Chris Harris covering the slot, Garyon Conley over here. Trey Waynes over there covering the fast guy. Whoever's the fastest guy on the field, that's who he's covering. Now you have a formidable defense. Now I was talking to a guy I work with who's a Titans fan. And I want to get his perspective from being on the other side. I'm like, if I tell you that you're coming in week 14 with the Tennessee Titans and this is who you're playing against, do you feel a certain type of way about this defense? And he said, if you're telling me those are your corners, I think those are formidable foes. It's way better than which I've ever had. Or way better than which I've been trying out there for the past couple of years, that type of cornerback tandem. And it takes the pressure off because, I don't have to just be the number 1 corner. And also the leadership that Chris Harris can bring in if you do decide to draft a rookie quarterback. And the stuff that he can help with Lonnie Johnson, especially if you're talking about bringing in J-Jo. So you got a guy out of J-Jo who has veteran leadership, who's been around the block, and you have him on the coaching staff, and then you have Chris Harris, who's gotten out the mud, being an undrafted free agent, but going on to not only been to 2 Super Bowls, winning one, being the best corner on the Super Bowl team, four-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All Pro. You bringing in that type of leadership, that type of tenacity, and that type of veteranness to this defense, to the secondary, to help out both Garyon Conley and Lonnie Johnson. Because, like I say, Conley, I like what Conley brought and what Conley's done, but Conley does have some flaws in his game that he needs to clean up. Some of his technique is poor, and I think that's the reason why he underachieved in Oakland for the first couple of years. And also, I think John Gruden trying to do overall. He's trying to make trying to make the team more so in his image, which is fine. That's what you do if you're a head coach, by all means. But he does have some poor technique skills that he started to clean up some, but he hasn't cleaned up all. And I think he will. I think you'll see a different Garyon Conley this season. I actually believe that Garyon Conley will be much improved this season. But if you take the pressure off if you give him a Chris Harris cover the slot, and you also put in the Trey Waynes to cover the speed guy, because this is something that we were talking about. I have no issue with bringing in Bradley Roby back, but the thing about Bradley Roby, I'm not paying Bradley Roby more than $10 million, which I think that's what he got this past year. He's not getting more than that from me. So, and I know he was trying to get more. I'm not paying Bradley Roby that. But Bradley Roby did do a solid job from a speed standpoint. Like when he was on the field, because the game against Kansas City when we got beat up, it was mostly Patrick Mahomes making plays and making the plays, scrambling, extending plays, and also Travis Kelce. It wasn't that like Tyreek Hill was running all over the field. The worst game that to be honest, the worst game that Bradley Roby actually played was the game against the Titans against AJ Brown. AJ Brown strictly abused him. That's a concern. So that's a guy you have to see twice a year in a team that's getting better. That's something that you don't want to see. So I definitely will replace Bradley Roby with Chris Harris. But if you do that, you're missing avoiding speed, and that's where Trey Waynes comes in. I believe that type of cornerback combination. And I'm going to do another video. Probably my next video I'm going to do will probably be on the type of corners that I was saying, because I actually have a list of where I want each corner, ranking wise, especially, and also certain tandems that I think match up better. If you get this guy, this should be the guy you should be to be his running mate to bring in with Garyon Conley, because you got Garyon Conley on one side. What other corners can you bring? Because like I just said, you have to bring in at the very least 2 corners via free agency. If you walk away with less than 2 corners, it is an epic failure during this free agency. And Bill O'Brien obviously is not knowing what he's doing as a general manager, which some of us have this speculation. But it'd be more clear if that's the situation, because if you bringing in just one corner, just think that you're going to run it. Okay, we're going to run it back. Garyon Conley and with this corner over here and Lonnie Johnson, that's it. There's only 3 corners. They're going to get strictly tied. I mean, definitely you're going to draft a corner, and then you're putting another rookie, because you put another rookie in a bad situation. We're going to date back to 2010. Texans drafted Kareem Jackson in the first round, and Glover Quinn was a second-year guy. That Texan defense got abused in 2010, and it was, to this day, is the worst secondary that the Texans had from a number standpoint. And that's before they was throwing the ball over the field like they're doing right now. It is the worst defense. The only defense that come close to that was the 2017. I think it was maybe like off by 1 point, and then off by like 100 yards or less than 100 yards from topping that defense as far as giving up passing yards total, like less than 100 yards total, and less than and like 1 point less from being worse than that defense. So that's what type of secondary we had, and it was based off of youth. You bring in guys like you brought in 2 guys. You brought in Daniel Manning, and you also brought in Jonathan Joseph. It fixed that defense. Now you also changed with Wade Phillips and things like that. You brought in Wade Phillips. He changed the defensive scheme. You also drafted J.J. Watt, and also drafted Brooks Reed, and also Connor Barrow was injured the year before. Connor Barrow played the full season. Same thing with D'Amico Ryans, because D'Amico Ryans was hurt the year before as well. So you brought in other pieces. I'm not just saying it was just strictly because of secondary, but you did strengthen your secondary by bringing in a safety and bringing in a corner who was a first-team All-Pro. Well, I don't know if he was first-team All-Pro, but I know he was a Pro Bowler back-to-back years. And he might have been second-team All-Pro in 2011, 2012. But that's how you flip from 2010 to 2011 because of You had two young guys. You brought in some veteran leadership. It helped those guys elevate. Now you did fix the pass rush and things like that, and you also changed the defensive scheme. But you get my drift. You understand what I'm saying? You gotta bring in multiple guys in the secondary to help shore up the secondary. You can't just bring in one. No, we want back then. We want to break the bank for Namdi. And it's a good thing that we didn't because we were able to get two for the price of one. I think you get that same situation. I don't think that Chris Harris is going to command that much. He's going to be 31 years old. Is he going to try to get his last payday? Absolutely. But he's not going to command that much because he's a 31-year-old corner. He understands that when there's a lot of guys in this class that's 26, 27, 28, he knows he's not about to get as much money as him. And he's like, his last year wasn't his best year. And he got his guys is coming off with better seasons, and they don't have the same accolades as him, but they're younger, and so people are going to pay more for them than they're going to pay for him. So, and then also he's going to probably and you talk about a team that has Deshaun Watson, a team that's competitive for in the AFC. All those things are factors, and you take those things into consideration. I don't think that he will command that much money, and then like I say, that's why you have to bring him in, and then bring in a cheaper guy like Trey Waynes, and that will help out the secondary a whole lot. I think that might be probably the best case scenario for the secondary. Garyon Conley on one side, Trey Waynes on the other side, and you got Chris Harris guarding the slot. Because I do believe the Texans have strong interest in Chris Harris. And I believe that you can definitely fix the secondary like that. This secondary will be much improved off of those two moves alone. And if you decide to draft a cornerback with one of your third-round picks or your fourth-round pick, or even you will use a second-round pick, whatever, that's cool. But you do need to fix the secondary by bringing in two guys. That's just it's just point blank. You can't, like I was saying about the offensive line last year. I don't care if you have a brick wall in front of Deshaun. If you can't protect that back end, you can't protect the lead. It doesn't matter. Look at the game against the Patriots this rookie year. Look at the game against the Seahawks this rookie year. Look at the game against Philly last year, or 2 years ago. Look at the game against New Orleans in the season opener last year. Those are all games that Deshaun scored a touchdown or got him in field goal range late to take the lead. And the Philadelphia game and the New Orleans game was under a minute. And both times, the Eagles with Nick Foles and Drew Brees with the Saints score either a touchdown or a game-winning field goal in less than a minute. That's a problem. You have to fix that situation. You gotta fix that situation. You gave up 51 points, 41 unanswered in Arrowhead in the divisional round. You have to fix that situation. You're not going to just fix that situation just by wishing and hoping. You have to bring in some guys. You gotta bring in some guys who are not scared and who have the talent to cover some of these fast guys, because the NFL is just going to get faster. Like I said about the combine, the NFL is just going to get faster, so you got to bring in some fast guys. But I do believe the Texans have strong interest in Chris Harris, and well, they should. I think Chris Harris is definitely an upgrade over Bradley Roby. If you're just talking about man for man, corner for corner, he's definitely an upgrade, but he doesn't have the speed that he has, so you do need to counter that. You have to make up for that speed. Everybody, I know this is a football video, but anybody that's going to be at the Rockets Magic game, holla at your boy. Your boy going to be up there Sunday, this Sunday, March 8th. The boy going to be at the Rockets Magic game. You know, I'm be rooting for the Magic. But hey, I don't care if you're a Rockets fan, you're a Magic fan, you're just a fan of basketball. Come holla at your boy. If you see me in the crowd, come holla at your boy. Don't be shy. Come holla at your boy. But like I said, I'm going to do another video breaking down exactly which DBs we should target and which DBs I believe go better with each other, and probably the price tags, and should you be on this one, should you be out on this one. But I just want to do this video because I do believe the Texans have strong interest in Chris Harris. I believe that because I think it's dating back to not just last year. I think it's even dating back to 2018 if I'm not mistaken. So I do believe there's strong interest on the Texans side and Bill O'Brien's side with Chris Harris. So like, share this video, comment, share, click that bell, get more videos. Holla.